Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the next episode of the Physique Decoded. I am your host, Richard, and today we are joined by enterprise fitness owner and Wolfpack creator, Mark Ottobre. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, Richard. It's great to be chatting to you today about all things PT.
So before we get started today, guys, I just want to publicly give a big thank you out to Mark so for those that don't know, Mark and I started in the fitness industry relatively around the same time. I think were you 2004?
Yeah, my first comp was 2004. And then I did my PT in 2005. And then I started work as a PT 2006.
Right. Okay. So I started my coaching in 2006. I was started at Genesis in Doncaster. So I believe you were in Ringwood.
Oh, what? I started Genesis in Ringwood.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did start literally at the same time. How's
So
that? Both at Genesis.
we've had a somewhat similar coaching career in how we've started at commercial gyms. We've worked in the private sector. We've opened up our own facility. We have coaches. We have mentor trainers. So we have a very similar background in terms of the journey that we've gone on in coaching. And one of the things that I'm sure everybody's heard me say 1,000 times, coaches especially, is the phrase mastering your craft. And that craft actually came from Mark. And I think I owe a lot of the success to myself and for the physique code based on that phrase where, because I'm seeing, a lot of times nowadays, we're seeing people starting to steer away from that, trying to, work out ways they can minimize work and maximize income. Whereas I think, that phrase that you said has always stuck with me for years and years, to provide as much value and quality to clients that they need, to the point that, we're always going to stay busy because we do the job so well. So I think I owe a lot of my mindset and coaching success to you. So I just wanted to publicly, before we start the podcast today, just say thank you for that.
Thanks, Richard. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, thank you. I didn't really know the effect that you always have on folks. So yeah, thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think everybody else will as well. That's being in Perth coaching around the physique code. So moving on, what we wanted to do today is we wanted to help out coaches. So there's a lot of coaches in the industry at the moment. I think there's the statistics came out. There's more gyms and more personal trainers than ever. Still, we're seeing personal trainers nowadays struggling in their businesses, and hopefully what we can do today is we can provide some insight on what it takes to be in the industry for a long period of time and not come in and be in and out in 2 or 3 years like we're unfortunately seeing a lot. So what I figured today is we can get you to answer a few questions, and hopefully we can provide a little bit of a roadmap for trainers that are either new or could be struggling.
Yeah, 100%. Sounds good.
So first question I want to throw at you today, and it's a very, very broad question, and we can sort of take this any way we want to. Now, trainers that are first starting in the industry. Now, personally, and this will be a big topic that we'll run through every question today, is we're seeing trainers coming in and then jumping straight to online training. Do you think that that's the way to go, or what advice would you give to a trainer that's just starting off in the industry, or what they need to do to have a successful long-term career?
Yeah, big question. All right. So I've got to give a bit of background. I was actually guilty of this when I first started. So I started 2006. In 2007, I went to a seminar, and the business coach was like, start an online membership site. So I did. It was called the Alpha Body. This was 2007. This is pre-Facebook. This was like MySpace days, right? So I had an online program, and I charged $49 a month. And then I realized that was like pittance. So I upped it to $97 a month. And folks got, a 4-week training plan, which I updated every 4 weeks. So I did interviews and with all these different bodybuilders. I actually started writing for Muscle Mag, because those ended up, the bodybuilders who I interviewed, I ended up writing them up and putting them in Muscle Mag. So like I got a lot of content. I wrote like mad. So every week folks got like an exclusive article from me, and they got their training program. They got to 15-minute call with me once a week, and this was all for $97 a month. And it was actually starting to work and take starting to grow. And then I started writing. I thought, okay, went to another seminar, and I learned about the power of like ebooks and ebook marketing. And I think at the time, what was it? not Click Funnels. It was called something else. Click something else. Anyway, it was this big back in the day, like huge ebook registrar, and you could affiliates. And so I thought, all right, I'll write an ebook, put some of the work that I've done and put it. So I wrote The Truth About Supplements, and that was 2008. And Johnny Bowden gave me a foreword, which was amazing. That was like kind of like his like Michael Jordan and nutrition. And I went to the market. The first week I sold like 32 copies, 35 copies, and actually got picked up by a pretty big affiliate. And like in a weekend they sold 50. I actually think more, was like maybe more like 70 copies in a week from an affiliate deal. And at the end of the year, anyway, like through all this work, I realized, and my web guys were like, oh, you have to change the headlines. You have to split test this. You have to do this. You have to do that. And I'd have website issues. And I remember at the end of the year, I looked at my finances, and way more than 80% of my income was coming from face-to-face. And the 10% was coming from the online. But not only that, I actually started to hate and resent what I was doing day to day. I'm like, I didn't sign up to this to sit in front of a computer and split test headlines. It's boring. I don't want to do this. And I became, in a true sense, like I was at that fork of the road. Do I continue with this online stuff and become an internet marketer, or do I pivot and become a coach? And in 2000, what a lot of folks may not know about me is when I was at high school, I finished school with an award in art, and my careers counselors all encouraged me to pursue a career of design, which I actually, when I finished school, I actually did my certificate for in applied design, graphic design, and I was on my road to becoming a graphic designer. And I remember it was probably mid-year. This was when I was competing, 2004. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I want to be in the gym. And I had a lot of people who were naysayers, like, don't be a PT. This was in 2003. In 2004, people telling me, the industry is overcrowded. Don't be a PT. And it kind of took guts to go in the opposite direction and actually do what I wanted to do, which was be a PT. And I remember doing all this stuff with the online and just thinking, this is not how I want to spend my day, regardless of money. So for me, it really came out of a place of this. And, I've had people work for me in the past, and they're like, you're really not about money in the way you do things. It's like, no, it's not a factor for me. It's, you do things well. I love my craft. And what you said at the start, it's like someone who loves their craft, and the goal for me, the goal is to perfect my craft, is to give someone a better experience. You can't compete with that, because I'm not, well, how am I going to maximize return on investment on that? It's, how do I get better at doing this? That's always going to come from a place, like, you're not going to outwork me in that, if that makes sense. You're not going to outwork a person like that who loves their craft, because the goal is the process. The goal is to get better at the actual thing, not to the end outcome. And it's that thing, when you have clients who struggle with weight loss, and they're focusing on, I need to be at 5%. I need to be at 5%. So they go super hard with their diet. They do 2 hours of cardio, or whatever they do, right? And then they blow up because they get to 5%. And then they blow up, in a week or two, they put on 10 kilos, 15 kilos, whatever it is, because it was just about achieving this very small window of achievement, but it wasn't about a lifestyle. It wasn't about, looking great long-term. And I kind of view the way I am with PT. It's how do I create a better experience for people? How do I create a better community? How do I get people better results? How do we get people results where they want to actually come and see us, and they look forward to seeing us, and it permeates every aspect of their life? That's the experience I want to give people. And that's what I'm obsessed about. That's what I fall in love with. It's that ideal. So whether, money is obviously nice. And for me, money is simply a scorecard. To quote the founder of Atari, it's a way of keeping score in business. And money ultimately allows me to do better things, buy nicer equipment, have a better studio, have a better facility, hire smarter people who can work on my team, and we can do creative, awesome stuff. And I think one of the most underrated pleasures of life is getting to work with amazing people. And every day I go to enterprise, I get to work with amazing people. Like my video guy, he's a great guy. I love working with him. Our admin, I love working with it. Like, there are so many people, like our trainers, I love educating them. They're great people. And that is a motivator. So I want to be surrounded by people where I want to do my best work. I want to give to the people around me as well. So I think it's part of purpose, right? It's this higher level of and I know for some people listening, they might be kind of overwhelmed by, oh, you asked me to figure out. And I think people figure out their purpose in time, but I think it's if you want to be online, you got to understand the game you're playing is not coaching. you're playing a game of online marketing. And frankly, there are bigger and badder people who are just, I suppose, doing it at a much higher level and have seed marketing. And I look at some of the stuff that, like, whether it's, Michelle Bridges or Ashley Bynes or Knees Over Toes, who I like a lot of his philosophy and stuff that he does, like who've really blown up on Instagram and these kind of stuff. You look at some of the guys who've really made big, like, online training systems where they're mass marketing at a point. Kayla Itsines, obviously she sold the business, her and a partner, for, what was it, 400 million. You look at some of the steps that they're doing with their online marketing and you study it. It's like, all right, to me, I look at it and like, no, apart from Knees Over Toes, who I think has a lot of coaching qualities, they're not coaches. They're online marketers. That's fundamentally, and I'm not saying that as a disrespectful thing. They're amazing online marketers. But I think if you want to be a coach, the first place you got to come from is like, if someone asks you a question, how do you get the best out of someone? That's a coach's role, is how do you get the best out of someone? It's not which headline do you think is going to work best. For me, that pivot point was really saying, like, I'm here to be a great coach. And it's always funny because now obviously I train one client, my guys train everyone else. My team trains everyone else. I've got my one client who's actually my receptionist. And, like, the guys always think, because they don't always see me coaching, but then I go on the floor, like I switch it on, I bring it on, and they're like, oh, wow. Well, they asked me a question about nutrition, or how do I deal with this difficult client, or how do I do this, or how do I do, and I've been doing a few of my guys, like on my team, some of my trainers, their training programs. One of my guys, I set up his training program. He's a weightlifter. And, he's put on 10 kilos on his squat in 8 weeks on his PR. And he was super impressed. But my point is, like, you don't also, from a coaching, growing the business point of view, I'm not going to attract those people, if, like, those levels of coaches, if I'm not myself a good coach, because they want to be inspired by someone to learn from. And the fact that, like, I can put my money where my mouth is, and sure, I'm not doing as much active training today because I've grown the business, I still love coaching. And my role as a coach has transformed. Instead of coaching just one person face to face, which I really, really enjoy and I love coaching, I've pivoted and I'm coaching basically the coaches who coach the coaches. So my team, and I spend more time with the head of my teams and, people in Wolfpack and trainers who want mentoring and that. So I'm still coaching. That's my focus. So my advice is, if you want to be a coach, get good at being a coach. That's different than online marketing. And online PT is the I suppose, it's been hot for a while, especially since COVID. It's been super hot, and every man on his dog is jumping onto, every influencer is jumping onto it, selling meal plans. But also the other thing, and when you do this exercise, the other thing I'd say from an economical point of view, if you just look at it from practicals, if you're an online coach, what, you're billing someone, I don't know, 75 a week, let's say. I know there are other online coaches who bill a lot higher. Some bill up to 150. But if I'm a client and I'm going to pay you 150 for online coaching, and all I'm getting is seeing you virtually, you're not with me, like, you have to be pretty special. Like, I would pay 150 a week for someone who is niched in what they do, but they're going to be a great coach. So say, for example, shout out to Gus Cook, who did a lot of stuff with, like, my powerlifting. Amazing online coach, amazing. But he's niche. Like, the guy's a beast. Deadlifts like over 300 kilos and probably more. Like, squats, amazing. Like, I send him my videos and he'll tweak little things. He's an amazing online coach. Stefan Eiseneff, another amazing online coach. But these are guys who have been in the trenches 10, 20 years. Like, they're educating coaches. They're not dummies. So if you're going to be, and like, the reason why I go to them is because what they know. They're not, by any stretch of the imagination, they're not online marketers. They're not competing with Kayla Itsines or any influencers. People are going to them for what they know. So I think when you flip the game, and if you want to be a coach, like, if you want to do some online coaching, another good example, and we both know him, Rawdon DeBice. I don't think he has an online website. I don't think he has a website at all, from my knowledge, but the guy's crazy busy from my understanding and only deals with competitors. Again, it's because he's first and foremost a coach. He's not an online marketer. So I think what happens, people see these exceptions from the guys that I've been talking about, and they think, oh, they're doing well online. Yeah, but what you didn't see was the 10, 20 years that they spent face-to-face, busting ass, getting up at 5 a.m., training clients, getting actual results. And then, over the years, they've built referrals that are yay deep, right? Like, when you have referrals of 10 deep, like if I stopped marketing today and stopped doing like any of the stuff that we're doing marketing wise, we'd still get referrals. Like I actually switched off all of our marketing a little while ago, and we're still, we're still getting not as much as we get with paid advertising, but we're still getting a whole bunch of people coming to us. Why? Because I've been doing it for almost 20 years. And I've got referrals of yay deep of people who, I sat down with 10 years ago and didn't buy then, but now want to buy, or move to the area, or a friend trained with us and heard about this. There's no substitute for doing the work. And I think if you fall in love with the process, you fall in love with being a better coach. I mean, my level of harshness on myself was I remember when I was like in my peak of coaching, I had a client, he was at 6 a.m. and I felt like shit that day. I woke up and I trained him, and at the end of the session, I was like super tired. I said to him, I'm not charging you for today. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm not charging you for today. I don't feel like I performed. I don't feel like I was the coach that you needed today. So I didn't charge him. He was like, okay, fine. He didn't have a problem with what I was doing, but I had a problem with it. I felt like I didn't deliver the service that he wanted. So, I mean, that's the level of obsession that I have in terms of wanting to master my craft, is I have my own internal, did I do a good job, rather than that external. And yeah, I think it's not, you want to switch the game of, rather than being about likes and followers and all this kind of stuff, or even scorecard, it's personal growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just to continue on with that is, what you're saying there is it's just building buy-in and building rapport and building trust. And, I think on a personal level is we run the training subscription app through Physique Code. And a lot of trainers in WA have tried to do it without the same success. But I think, it's that, again, like you said, it's that background of results that you've had. It's the experience that you've had that actually makes it, that's what you're selling, and that's what people are buying, rather than just saying, hey, here's a product for this amount of money, come and enjoy it. And it's when you have that buy-in and you have that trust, from people, then you don't have to market it quite as much, and selling does become much easier because people have trust in your product. And I think that goes the same with any industry, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think you just touched on something really important there as well, is that like once you've done those hours, if we get an online client, and I imagine that one of the reasons why you guys are so much more successful than the other folks in WA is if you get an online client, you're not scared to say no, like you're not right for this. And you also know what to look for. You know exactly what to look for. You know who your client is. Like we get online requests a lot, and a lot of the time we turn them down if they're not right, because we know that this is actually going to create, and we've done it enough times, we've been in the trenches enough years that we know what a good online client looks like and what a bad online client looks like. Because the truth is not everyone, if they're a beginner, they're not suitable for our model anyway. For some other people, maybe the way they train people, but for us, if you're a beginner, you're not suitable for online training. It's just, we can't do it. Like if you're a beginner and you're a face-to-face client, absolutely, we can help you. But as an online client, there's things that hand-holding that we're not specialized in that. And we don't try and be specialized in that, where I think a lot of inexperienced coaches, they just take on anyone. So, and I think they're the skills that you're going to get and learn when you're face-to-face, and there's no substitute. And, a lot of the time, I say to my team, when I see a client, I'm like, oh yeah, they're this person, blah, 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 do this. And like, well, how do you know all that? And they'll sit with me and they'll see me ask questions. And like, how did you think to ask that? Like one time I was doing a consult with one of our staff, training them up. And I was like, oh, have you had your gallbladder removed? And they're like, yes. Anyway, after the session, the trainer turns to me and says, how did you know to ask about their gallbladder? I'm like, everything they were telling me, like, it was just leading to, they've had this surgery. And it's a while when you've done that many hours of, like when you've done your 10,000 hours, it becomes pattern recognition. It's like playing 10,000 games of chess. If you move this piece, you're probably going to move that piece next. They're probably going to move this. And you know how the game's going to turn out before you even make the first move. And I think that's what it does. And then that skill translates then online. And when you've done, the amount of hours that you've done, you're just able to be a lot more successful at it. And I think that there's no substitute for that. So if you're trying the other way, if you want to substitute it, is you then go compete with the Kayla Itsons, the Ashley Bynes, the Michelle Bridges, who have, probably spending, thousands of dollars every day on Facebook marketing, and it all becomes about cost per acquisition. They buy a lead for, let's say, $10, let's say, and they're able to make, on the back end, $20, whatever it is, and it really just becomes about numbers. And that's where you've got your online marketing at scale. But the thing is, with that model, is you really have to commit to that as an online marketer, because Facebook changed their rules, every quarter. Google changes their rules every quarter. Websites certainly don't last forever. Once you have a website up, you're going to have to update it every 4 or 5 years. That's just standard. People who bitch and moan about it, that's just the rules of the web. What worked in 2007 does not work in 2010, did not work in 2012. 2015, we had, and now like Web 3.0, the whole game has changed again. And I mean, you saw that with the example of the iOS 14 update. The iOS 14 update was basically where Facebook said to, Apple said to Facebook, we're no longer share data with you, which then people's Facebook pixels really stopped working instead of the remarketing. And I say this, like we were relying as a business for our marketing, like a lot of remarketing content and wise. And when that change happened, we didn't have the same amount of reach in terms of the content we could put out and remarket folks who'd been on our website and this kind of stuff. The game changed. So my point being is, if you want to compete without the hours, then you're going to be committing yourself to being an online marketer, which is fine. It's just not coaching. Just don't delude yourself to thinking you're becoming a better coach, because you're not. In that case, you'd be better off learning marketing and pairing yourself with someone who actually is a fantastic coach, and get them to be the coach and you to be the online marketer, and you commit yourself to learning Facebook ads and, headlines and copy and design and all the other things that are integral to developing an online business, because they're different skills. They're not the same thing.
Absolutely. And I think, again, so coming back and just reiterating that is coming back to that phrase of mastering your craft and making sure that, after, you are in the trenches and you are working with all different types of people, because there's a lot, there's the hard skills of training, but then again, like, we've said previously on the podcast, is there's soft skills as well, that you build an understanding about, how some clients may work emotionally, how some clients work physically. And then, the more experience you get with it, the better the coach you can be. And then once you have sort of all those extra tools in your toolkit, then when you do decide to go train online after, X or Y amount of time, then you have those skills in your back pocket that you may be able to use. That's going to make you a much better online coach and be able to still get results. So I really like that answer. Let's move on to our next question, which is kind of going to be driven in from that, actually. So nowadays we're getting, and this is just something that I'm seeing personally, and we touched on this a little bit already today, but there's a lot of trainers, take away the new trainers out of the fitness industry, but there's a lot of trainers that are what I would call caught in the spin cycle, that, have potentially started in a commercial gym, have been sold a dream to go online. They've ended up in that sort of, they've ended up as content creators. I was actually speaking with somebody just a couple of days ago about this, where they felt that that's where their job is 80% making Instagram reels and things like that, rather than coaching. If somebody is in that position now, they found themselves in that position, what would be some advice that you would give them to potentially get themselves from where they are there to coming back to being a good coach and building a long-term career? So what would you say to somebody like that?
Yeah. Focus on what's in front of you. Actually, a good little story on that is the farmer, and I forget what the parable's called, but basically a farmer hears about this this place in the mountains that has all these diamonds, and he goes out and he says to his wife, I'm leaving you. He says, I'm leaving the kids, sells the farm for dirt cheap, loses a bunch of money because he hears that there's these diamonds in the mountains. And anyway, he sells it to this dude starts, plowing the farm and doing what he does. He goes out and realizes pretty quickly it's very hard. And, the diamond, finally gets to the mountain, and they're digging, and all the diamonds, all the good spots are basically gone. And he's digging. And after years, he decides to come back. Meanwhile, the farmer who, bought the farm for dirt cheap, he falls in love with the farm. Really, anyway, one day he's digging, he's doing this work to the farm, and he he strikes this hard thing, and he's like, what the hell's this? It's diamonds. It's diamonds. And he pulls it out, and he's like, wow. And the whole farm is covered in diamonds underground. What's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is diamonds often lay where you stand. That's the moral of the story, right? People often think, I'll go over to the mountain somewhere else to find diamonds, and what they find is, all the diamonds are actually gone. But where you are right now, if you just kept working and fell in love with where you were right now, that's where the diamonds actually are. But a lot of the time we just get rid of the things and don't double down, when what we actually need to do is double down. So what my advice is the most valuable thing you probably have as a trainer is the people in front of you, the client. So what I would personally be looking at is, how do I make the experience for the client so good that they can't help but talk about me to their friends? What do I need to, and I actually actively, when I was a solo trainer, I would ask my clients these questions. I would book an extra 10 minutes with them to talk to them and say, how can I do better? It'd be amazing sometimes the feedback I would get. You talk too much, you're not focused enough. Like sometimes clients who actually wanted to help me, they just tell me. And I'd be like, wow. And I'd be really humbled by it, because I'm like, you're right. Like I am talking too much, and I am not focused, and I do need to do better with my programming, and I need to learn those things. And I did, because I wanted to actually wow the client, right? I was really wanting to know how I could do better. So I think you need to be quite humble to do that, and actually ask the people who you're serving and find out what would wow them. If you were to charge 10 times more than what you are now, what would you have to provide? Figure out what that is, and then provide that. Give them the value of 10 times more. Because, if you pay me, say $100, and I give you $1,000 worth of value, you're going to go tell 5 of your friends. You're going to, because you're like, this guy gives me so much value. You're going to want to tell people about it. It's just natural. And that's how you want to operate. And I think rather than making continual posts, is talk to the people and find out ways and engage them. If I made you, let's say you're struggling with figuring out your macros, right? And I made you a cheat sheet, and you had to figure out what 30 grams of protein was in all the favorite foods that you liked. But I prepared that sheet and I gave it to you and said, hey, look, I figured out, I know you like eating at these places. I gave you this sheet. Here you go. It's a quick reference guide. I just made it for you to make it. I just made it for you just to make it easier for you. You're going to be like, wow, that was really helpful. You didn't have to do that. Or I find out what restaurants you like eating at, and I circle the menu for you, and I give you the menu back from all the restaurants you like eating at. It's just the extra care factor, but they're the things that you're going to talk about with your clients. And, the reality is, like Instagram from us, we do, over 250 sessions, 2 to 350 sessions a week. I mean, it's a lot of personal training. We rely very little on Instagram, very little, very, very little on that side of stuff. Like we do it, and I'm doing it a lot on my page, mainly because I want to grow my following for, the book that I want to publish and other things that I want to do eventually. But if I was starting my career, like I'd be doing very little. Like I'd be doing it, but it wouldn't be my focus. It'd be 10% of my time, right? Because that's where it should be. It's not going to give you 100%. What's going to give you the biggest result often, and if you are at a commercial gym, like when folks, start with Wolfpack or I mentor them, the first piece of advice I give them is, let's talk about how you're approaching customers on the gym floor. Let's focus 80% of your time on approaching new customers on the gym floor, because they're the people in front of you. They're the people who've put their hand up and said, I'm in your local area and I like training. Start there. That's shooting fish in a barrel. Instagram is interests and so widely vast. And even if you do make it as an influencer, right? Even if you do make it, quote unquote, and you get 100,000. And I've had people with large followings, either as clients or work for me, and I've seen behind the scenes, and I can tell you, it's not what you think. Financially, it's certainly not what you think, because you're not charging. Like if I'm charging you $100, $150, $200 an hour, Instagram online program, you're charging, as we were talking before about, like maybe it's $7 a week, $10 a week, or $75 a week. If you're a really great coach, like the guys I mentioned before, you then have the right, like if you're a Stefan Eisenef or a Gus Cook or a Rawdon, you have the right to charge a lot more, right? Because you've been doing it, you've got the expertise. But if you're a new coach, people, they're not going to pay it because you don't have the reputation. So your most effective, even financially, is going to be the people who are in front of you, because one-to-one, they're going to spend more money with you. They're going to spend more money with you than an online program. So if you are in the thing, I would say start making content for your clients, to wow the experience, be obsessed about them, focus on them, focus on the people who are in front of you. They are your diamonds. They're the ones who are going to give you the ROI.
And there's sort of two sayings just to come back on that is, in terms of the referrals, and I think is a really important point to make that, they've said in marketing for years and years, but a lot of people tend to forget it is, people don't talk about you unless you do a really bad job or you do a really, really good job. So again, when you're trying to get referrals from clients, you always want to make sure that, you're pushing that extra mile to make sure that, people are going to talk about you, which is, exactly what you said there. But, when you fall into that trap of, I'll just do just enough for them, it does actually make it quite hard to gain referrals and gain trust in your clients and be able to build your business that way.
100%. That was actually one of the reasons why very early on I switched to all hour sessions, and I didn't offer a half hour, I didn't offer 45. And the reason is because I couldn't wow my client in 30 minutes or 45. I needed an hour to give them the service that I wanted to give them, to get to know them, to coach them, to, whatever the problem they were going through, I wanted that time with them so I could give them that experience. And again, that's where all the decisions come from.
Absolutely. So when we're looking at this, we had a final question that we were gonna ask today, but I feel like we've actually covered it, and we might just be summarizing sort of what we've said here. And I asked this question to Phil Learney and a few of the other guys on our podcast that we've all come up with really great answers, and I want to hear sort of your spin on it. And I'm sure it'll be quite in line with everybody else's. But we're often told to be the go-to trainer at your gym. So stop trying to impress everybody. And if you're at a commercial gym, you want to become the go-to trainer at that gym. And that's what's going to build your business, which is, I guess, a bit of a summary of what we've already said today. What things could trainers do to become the go-to trainer at their gym? So what would be sort of 2 or 3 small pieces of advice that we could give coaches to improve that we maybe haven't covered today?
Be obsessed with learning. I think, as Charles Poliquin said many times in all of his seminars, the more you learn, the more you earn. It's just true. So, learn how to screen your clients, learn how to program. People are always obsessed about programming, but they don't learn about screening. You can't divorce the two. People want to learn about macros, but a lot of the times your clients aren't even able to count calories. So you need to learn the soft skills of coaching and how to guide people and talk to them and not go straight into macros. Teach them a food system or a small stair step. Understand how to adapt your advice and make it implementable. Learn the soft skills, learn how to talk to people. That's something I did pretty early on, was learn a lot of the soft skills like NLP and, how to coach. And that had a tremendous impact on my career. And, I didn't realize that when I was on the gym floor at the commercial gyms, people were always watching me. And that's often why I got a lot of the clients, but it was even more than that. At the gym, I wasn't just waiting on becoming the go-to guy. It wasn't even the goal. The goal was to serve people. I put service at the cornerstone of what I did. How can I be of value to every single person, or how to be as much value as possible to the people who are thinking, who are at this gym right now and would think about doing personal training. And that's where I came from. So if I saw someone do the wrong exercise, it's like, oh, hey, I'm Mark, I'm a trainer here. Can I give you a quick tip? Can I show you how to do this more effectively? And I'll give them a tip. And sometimes they'll sign up to PT. Sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they'll tell someone else to sign up to PT. Sometimes they'll come back to me in 6 months and then sign up to PT. But the focus is, I think, if you're at the gym floor, focus on being of value and focus on being a service. You're there fundamentally to serve people. If you think you're there to update your Instagram or to serve yourself, that's probably why you're not where you want to be. You flip the switch, focus on service and focus on being of value to as many as possible.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think just to add on that again, I think, we are, like you said, it's funny you mentioned about the Instagram, and it's almost at a point now where we're seeing much more of, people filming everything in their workouts with clients to try to, get new content on Instagram or things like that. With me, I've always found that when you're in the session, it's one-on-one with the person. And again, it's adding that value rather than necessarily saying, all right, they're almost using it for content on social media. Some of the training structures or some of the exercises and trying to teach technique. And I think, again, when you come back to it and say, when you're with a client, you're with a client, and it's everything that you do has to be pushed towards that client to making them better. And again, adding as much value as you can to that person, which seems like very straightforward advice, I would think, but it doesn't quite happen as much as it used to.
Well, I think one of the problems with PT is that the average age of a personal trainer is 23. I'm 37 now, and at 37, when I was 23, the average age was 23, and now the average age when I'm 37 is still 23.
Yeah.
So I think it's somewhat. I mean, look, there are like a lot of guys who are in their 30s who work for us at Enterprise, but the reality is, I think a lot of the guys who are coming up, they're kind of affected by the culture of things, and the culture right now, especially if you're young and in your 20s, it's Instagram. It's where people are at. They're socializing on Instagram. They're on the TikTok. They're on their phones. They want to film it. They want to be modern. But I mean, look at who you're serving. Who are your clients? Do they even care about Instagram? I think people want results, and results are going to look different to different people. And it's fundamentally, that's also something you want to check in with your clients. Like, what's your expectation of me? What's your expectation of what you're going to get from me? My expectations of you, and lining that up, because some people might be repulsed by Instagram, and it comes back down to the people you're serving.
Absolutely. And one point just before we wrap up today that I thought was really interesting that you touched on, again, coming back to the education side of things. I think this is something that I've been trying to sort of preach a little bit more recently, and it's sort of the last few years something that I've come to the realization of, that I was quite guilty of when I was younger, and that's learning for the sake of learning. And I think what I also we're seeing a lot of right now, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is, a lot of the fitness industry, their demographic is going to be, not necessarily bodybuilders or advanced lifters or things like that. But what I'm tending to see a little bit of the moment is knowing your client and learning what can make your demographic better. Because what something that I've noticed a lot, and I've been guilty of this in the past, is I tend to learn what I love for myself. And then when I come back and I found it very hard to apply to my business. And I think there's a lot of coaching at the moment that people are going away and learning very, very advanced training techniques and things like that aren't going to apply to, the average person working out at Genesis. So do you have any advice for people on approaching what they learn?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting that you say that. And I think some of it's due to the popularity of people on Instagram. Like the people on Instagram are popular, so their courses sell well because they're popular. And it's not necessarily their courses are great for what they are, but they're not courses that always have exactly crossover to what your everyday client needs, because those courses aren't, let's face it, they're not as popular. They're a bit more, maybe they're a bit more boring, because it's fundamentals. And I think trainers' egos often want to think they're further ahead. That's probably the biggest thing in training and coaching. The amount of trainers that I have now through the Enterprise Fitness Academy or through Wolfpack or even through Enterprise is just ego is what kills so many trainers' growth. And because again, when I was a younger trainer, I was definitely in this camp as well. I thought I knew a lot more. I thought I knew a lot more than I did. I wanted to have all the answers. And then as you learn, you realize, oh shit, there's a lot that I don't know. There's more that I don't know than I do know. And it's quite humbling. But when you're young and you're naive a little bit, you want to think you have all the answers. And when someone says, I'll teach you how to train general population clients, the default is, why do I need to know that? I already know that. I'm training bodybuilders. I know how to do this and this. It's like, yeah, but all your 40 plus clients who want to lose 20 kilos, they're all leaving you, and they're the ones who are paying you good money, right? Like, learn how to connect the dots. So I think my advice to trainers would be, seek out people whose success you kind of want to emulate. in the sense that, if you want to learn to make decisions from where you want to be rather than where you are. If you want to be training elite athletes and bodybuilders, then go learn from people who are training elite athletes and bodybuilders. If you want to have a mixed and diverse skill set, then learn from people who have a mixed and diverse skill set, who've been able to be successful in multiple different areas. So, if you want to learn a specific skill, learn from someone who has demonstrated that skill. But definitely learning from the sake of learning, I think, I do see that, because then people just don't apply anything. You want to go into every course with, how is this going to help me with the next step of my career? What's my gaps? And then actively seeking out people who can help you with those gaps, rather than, oh, there's a popular course on Instagram, I'm going to jump onto the popular course and never probably going to use this information because none of my clients are interested in this. But yeah, really actively seeking things that are going to connect the dots for you, I think is, and people who are going to connect the dots. And I say, look, you find a good mentor, you find a good course that can help you connect those dots. It's always worth its weight in gold. I know there's been courses that I've paid for like several thousands of dollars, and I probably would have paid more. They've been worth to my career much more, and I paid very good money for them. And the right course at the right time kind of thing is invaluable, in the sense of what it can do for your career and personal growth and get you on the trajectory. So there are good mentors out there, there are good courses out there, and just encourage people to learn, but have consciously of what they need, the gaps, and fill those gaps.
Excellent. I love that as a final summary into how we can help coaches, stay in the game for long term, and not just come in and be out in a few years, and be able to make a career out of it that they can be in for 20 or 40 or 50 years, or however long it is. Quick segue onto that. Speaking of education and mentoring, you currently run mentoring for coaches through the Wolfpack Academy. Do you want to give us a quick run through on that before we finish up today?
Yeah, so I got two main offerings. The first offering is the internship. The internship is basically, it's a program where we teach training, nutrition, and business. We cover on all three aspects. Traditionally, it's been run as a 3-day course, and it's a day on each topic, and it's a lot of fun. It's in Melbourne. Looking at in the new year, changing that up to actually being online and offline, so providing even more value for folks who want to do the internship. And then the Wolfpack offering is the one where it's mentoring with me. So I've got like 2 levels of it, but basically it's mentoring with me, and you get access to, it's over $75,000 worth of course material on our members site. We've been filming for, I don't know, like 6-7 years, and we've had guest speakers. We've got so many guest speakers, presentations, is all my content. And that again is training, nutrition, business, templates, contracts, heaps of different stuff inside of that. Really everything you need. And then obviously there's me guiding you through, like, this is what you've got to do. This is the focus. This is how you're going to do it. So we've got a full curriculum. A lot of these things got built out from my own business, like our pack curriculum for trainers, when it comes to nutrition and training, same education that my trainers get. So we built it out. So for me, it serves kind of multiple purposes. So I treat you as in Wolfpack as one of my team members, and I give you what my team members would get if they're coming on board with us. But then we also go through like the business aspect of it too. So they're quite comprehensive programs. My average client usually stays with me. Like my average Wolfpacker will stay with me for about 3-4 years. Like because the goal is to grow the business. People often come in for a short time, and then they realize like there's a lot to learn, and I've got a lot to kind of share. So that's kind of how I've been doing it. I haven't really advertised it in a while because I've got a lot of really long-term clients. So if people are interested, the best place is to just reach out to me on Instagram, to be honest, because I haven't done, being guilty of being quite busy with the clients that I have and talking about some of the stuff that we spoke about today. I haven't had a need to really go out and market it.
So I'll drop your places to contact in the bio of the podcast, so anybody can get out to you there at any time. Mark, I just want to say thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate that. And hopefully we've dropped a few nuggets for coaches and trainers. So thank you again.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.